Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, good morning and welcome to the Tuesday college football, basketball, baseball blitz on Sidelines. Rob Browne here with you, and there's a lot we've got to talk about today. A bunch of stuff happening in the sports world. We got a great lineup. Start off with Frank Duffy, who's up in Iowa at the RV Center for Bengal One, getting some treatment. I'll tell you right now, Doug Dean will be with us. Jake Wimberly from 105.9 The Afternoon Drive, ESPN in Jackson, Mississippi, the bold new city, the capital city, and Jordan Hill as well from the classic city of Athens, Georgia. We'll check in the final segment talking UGA football and what's going on there in the spring. You've got Gunnar Stockton, you've got Carson Beck, and you've got that looks like that's who the quarterback battle is with. And there's a third quarterback in the mix, and I look for him likely to be in the transfer portal. But we'll get all that covered with Jordan. We're here 6 days a week, 25 shows minimum per month. That's over 300 a year, 50 hours plus content a month. I want to say something about one of our sponsors. If you like working out, and you got to be physically fit, mentally alert, and morally straight to make it, and you need to do this, go check it out on the web and go see it. rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis. This is the first of 3 locations that Ann Camp Lee is opening up in Memphis. And we went and toured it last Thursday. Audrey and I did, my wife. 24 weight benches with all the dumbbells. Then you've got 24 punching bags. These are not just the old canvas punching bags like in Rocky, Burgess Meredith. Come on, you're a bum. Hit it. Come on, Rocky. You're nothing but a bum. Now these are, it's whatever the material is. It's like they're like teardrops. They hang down. I'd say it's more like hitting somebody, but it's not. An incredible workout. They've got great, spacious, beautiful, clean locker rooms. Great facility located at Union and McLean in Midtown Memphis. It's in the middle of everywhere in Midtown. You can't miss it. rumbleboxinggym.com. And there are some founders memberships still available. Those go away once they open. The expected open is going to be April 17th. That is this coming Monday, okay? You need to get over there, rumbleboxinggym.com. Also want to say hello to David Aquadro, Mr. Stairmaster guy. You climb more stairs in the same place every morning just to listen to Sidelines.live than anybody. We salute you, Mr. Stairmaster guy. And to Darlene and Walter Hill and all the people over in Wynne, Arkansas that just continue to amaze me. Just want people to know the help that so many of our listeners, viewers here on Sidelines have given. All of that money is going directly. We're taking it over there and going and buying stuff. Dave Baker and MJ went last Friday after we were delivering some meals over in Wynne, bought all the bunny bread they could get at the Walmart and went up to the Cowboy Church up on Crowley's Ridge. These people are incredible. If you haven't seen a Cowboy Church, you need to see one. Just an absolutely incredible group of people. But the people in Wynne, Arkansas, and in Little Rock, they need help. I don't use the term victims, okay? Scratch that one from the nomenclature. I call them the tornado people. They got hit. They're fighting back. Arkansas is a badass state with a great governor, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Lieutenant Governor Leslie Rutledge, people like Darlene and Walter Hill, Sheriff David West. Incredible what's going on in Wynne, Arkansas. They will be back, and they'll be strong. They will rebuild. You watch what happens. But appreciate all the help and the prayers. The power of prayer, a constancy in prayer, is as real as I've ever seen in my life. Go to Wynne, Arkansas, and you will see that. All right, let's head up there to RV country, and our man on the ground, Charles Kuralt, would be proud of you. I travel this country in my RV with Bengal 1. You and Charles Kuralt together. That would have been. We salute you, Mr. RV guy. How are you?
The Cajun Charles Kuralt. Well, as you can see, I've got Old Glory behind me and the Iowa State flag.
Sir.
So I'm in Forest City, Iowa, at the wonderful factory home of Winnebago. They are just awesome people up here. Bengal 1 is a 41-foot horizon from Winnebago, and I'm getting the last bit of warranty work done up here in Iowa. But I love it up here. This is my 5th trip up here, Iowa. Yeah. By the way, Rob, I think I've done about 4 or 5 trips from this park, shows from this parking lot. I've been here quite a bit.
You have, but we've never been able to see Old Glory, the great American flag, and the Iowa flag flying in the background. And you got the 680, the fan, the Braves windbreaker on. You do look like the field correspondent. Again, Charles would be proud.
I'm representing. But I will tell you, Rob, my LSU RV is not very popular up here in Iowa after the women's final.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, tell them, hey, Caitlin Clark's one hell of a player. You betcha, eh? Look, Frank, RV Bengal 1, 41 feet of absolute luxury. And you've got the grills. When you pull up on a site, you're completely self-contained. I mean, you don't have to go anywhere to get food as long as you've got food with you. So look, I love seeing these journeys. Frank, there's a lot going on in the sports world right now. We've got, I think, 8 spring football games coming up Saturday. Yep. We had Franz Beard, along with you, 2 of the most interesting men in the world, not drinking Dos Equis at the moment, but wishing they were.
At the moment.
Look, 8 spring games. Now, Florida's going to have their game. You want to be different, don't you, pile? What side is this? Pow! Florida's going to play their spring game Thursday. And they're doing that because they're saying they've got a huge recruiting weekend coming in with Billy Napier. But a lot of quarterback battles. Doug Dean sent that information. I'm going to let him get into that when he comes on with us. But he had a scheduling mix-up. He's going to be on in about 15 minutes into the second hour. If you can stay with us, we hope you can. But that production list, okay, about productivity coming back. First year under, Kelly, Brian Kelly wins. He's the second winningest coach. I think 3 games separate him from Nick Saban.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to win some national championships at LSU. To win 10 games last year with what he had going on was a hell of a year.
It was incredible, Rob. I mean, think of the bowl game, the end of the Ogeron had gotten fired halfway through, left. And then we had the offensive line coach Davis.
Frank,
against Kansas State, we wound up having only 35 scholarship players.
Yeah.
So it was a train wreck. I mean, and for a team 2 years removed from a national championship, one of the greatest college football seasons of all time was an abomination. So for Kelly to come in, work the transfer portal as well as he did, keep a good recruiting class. It was amazing. Our recruiting class was as good as it was 2 years ago in the midst of all that, mess that was going on. And then to come back again with another top 5 recruiting class this past year. And if you see he's like in the top 2 for 2024 already, and we have a very strong class in Louisiana. I mean, I think the future is incredibly bright for LSU right now. And Doug sent both you and I that report that said that LSU is ranked number 30th in returning talent from last year to this year. So something really good to build on. In fact, I was kind of surprised to see Alabama was ranked 125th. Now, of course, they got 4 and 5 stars that'll, backed up like trucks at a way station, ready to come on and play. So that's not a big deal. But I thought it was very telling that Auburn and LSU and Ole Miss were right there in that 28, 29, 30 range. So, again, I think the West is very, very powerful. I think Kelly's going to have us playing competitive ball again. just like he was last year. We're going to know a lot in that first game. I'm bringing Bengal 1 to Orlando for the kickoff class against Florida State. We're going to see where both these teams are from a year ago, where it was kind of a comedy of errors. The end of that game, missing the extra point, we could have put it into overtime. So it's going to be an interesting season for LSU. But I think Brian Kelly at the helm. We have a great steward. The adults are in the room, and I think good things are coming. I really do.
Well, I do, and you look at the talent. They're going to get talent because the state of Louisiana is, excuse me, I think it's number 7 or 8. If you look at the top 10 states in the country for producing college football players, number 1, Texas with around 400 a year. Right behind that are Texas, I'd say number 2 is Florida at about 380. California's dropped down to about 350 because let's face it, a lot of people are leaving that state for a lot of reasons. They're very taxing reasons, I might add. But number 4 is Georgia. They're now producing 250 players a year. Number 5 is Ohio at about 155, 160. Right behind them, Alabama's producing about 140 Division I players a year. So that's number 6. Number 7's Louisiana in the 90s. And LSU's going to get pretty much whoever they want, Frank. If they don't, it's because they're not recruiting.
And we don't have that in-state challenger. Now, Tulane had a great year last year. Tip of the cap to our friends in New Orleans. They had a wonderful year. Had that great win against USC. But I will tell you, if you're a blue chipper in Louisiana and LSU comes calling, if Mama comes calling, you're gonna accept that invitation. You're gonna accept that bid to come play. And come run out between those double goal posts. Again, we've had a lot of people come in. You've had Auburn come in and get some of our defensive linemen and a couple of our offensive linemen. You've got Alabama. Nick Saban knows his way around Louisiana. He does. And then we got to keep our flank in check with Texas and Texas A&M. But for the most part, if we sew up the borders of Louisiana and then we go do our cherry picking, which we've done really well. I tell you what, talk about Georgia. We've gone in there and gotten a lot of that number 4 state over the last years, especially a lot of skill positions. Our long snappers. I mean, from the high school in Beaufort for Georgia sent us 3 long snappers. National champion long snapper as well. So LSU is going to be perfectly fine on getting the Jimmies and the Joes. I think we have a your game plan on the X.
Yeah, Frank, you're freezing up.
I'm very excited about this upcoming year. I really am. We have Auburn and Florida back at home, and then we've got Alabama on the road. This is normally the flip year of the schedules that normally actually works out well for us. We normally have a lot better success in Tuscaloosa than we do in Baton Rouge against Bama. And it's much easier to beat Florida and Auburn in Baton Rouge than it is to go on the plains or go into the swamp. So this is a good year for us. I think we have a great chance of beating Florida State early on, and we'll see where the chips fall.
Yeah, that Florida State really took that and catapulted the win over LSU 24-23 into a 10-win season. And you and I know Johnny Ballpark Franks were all talking early in the season. We felt like both teams would probably win. I felt like Florida State would win 9 or 10 games. Look, LSU with Brian Kelly, just look at his track record. He wins everywhere he's been.
Yeah.
Central Michigan, Cincinnati,
whatever level.
Notre Dame, it doesn't matter. He is a proven commodity. And the people that question, and he's a young guy. Look, age is just a number. He wants to take care of himself, which he does. He's 59, 60, whatever. He can coach another 10 or 15 years. Mentally, he's sharp as a tack. There are some people that are in public high-profile positions that are so dumb they don't know come here from Sikkim. They'll remain nameless. But they're basically living brain donors. But Brian Kelly, Nick Saban. These are two of the sharpest people. I'm going to tell you what, there are a lot of people out there that just are licking their chops so they can, quote, retire. Basically sit on their ass and do what? I had my great attorney friend, my late friend Barry Blackburn, used to say when he lived in Miami getting his LLM in estate planning, he said all these retirees coming to Miami, he said, it's kind of like heaven's waiting room. They're all waiting around. He goes, man, somebody show some signs of life. And, Joe, I hate to talk about Joe Paterno because I just think of a lot of horrible thoughts. But anyway, I just think about Nick Saban, Brian Kelly. These guys ain't going anywhere. And look at Kirby Smart at the ripe old age of 46. I love it when I see these guys. They're taking care of themselves. They're exercising. They're physically fit. Saban, despite what a lot of people may say about him, is almost probably a daily celebrant at Mass. I mean, he receives the Eucharist. That's powerful stuff. It ain't any accident that he's so successful.
Yeah. Well, look at Brian Kelly. He actually lost weight at LSU. That's no easy task. When you got Gumbo and Etouffee and jambalaya, if you're taking off weight, you're doing something right. I think that also shows that he enjoys living in Baton Rouge. I think look, Notre Dame that's a tough gig, man. That's, the expectations are sky high. The limitations on who they can get people in. It's a hard gig. Much easier life in LSU.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break. I think of Notre Dame. I think of that scene at night of the movie A Christmas Story, just up there in Indiana with the old cars and the snow. Yeah. That's what it's like. In Baton Rouge, heaven on earth, man. We'll be right back. Frank Duffy, Rob Browne from Iowa.
From Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the Forest City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Frank, LSU spring game comes up April 22nd. And at 2 o'clock on ESPN Plus and SEC Network Plus, defending SEC West champs. Okay. So I think you just said something that tells me about Brian Kelly. Extreme discipline. If you can lose weight as a football coach in Baton Rouge with all that great food, you know it. Our friend Jimmy Ott, ESPN 104.5 in Baton Rouge, his show at 5 days a week, he eats at a different restaurant. How do you do that? You know, you're going, this is, and Jimmy's a lean, mean dude. I mean, I don't know how you do that, Frank. It's the greatest food. New Orleans is the greatest food city in the world. Everywhere I've ever traveled, they got great food in a lot of places, but there's nothing like New Orleans. Brian Kelly gets 10 wins his first year. He gets the quarterback situation figured out. And let's talk about that. They're going to be hard to beat because he doesn't get rattled.
Well, Jaden Daniels, I mean, I think that was an incredible year that he had. He is a Swiss Army knife at quarterback. And, for his senior year, it could be his 9th year with COVID and all he had years, right?
It's another year because he's from Arizona, California. They get 2 extra years.
That's right. God knows. But here's the thing, he's a leader. And when you beat Alabama in Tiger Stadium on that last second and you coolly bring that team down the field, hit, that incredible pass. I mean, that was a difficult pass out there in the flat, right? And then you come back and then you gain the respect and then you throttle. I mean, we throttled Purdue in that bowl game. That has to give you a lot of confidence in spring. I'm hearing spring is going well. So we'll see a lot in the spring game. Brian Kelly does play his players in the spring game, so we'll see how good. But you got Nussmeier right behind him. And he had a great game toward the end with came out slinging. Now we lost to A&M, but he came out slinging in that. So he's got the ability of coming in as a curveball, as a relief pitcher. So you've got defensive coordinators are going to have to prepare for 2 totally different quarterbacks, totally different skill sets. And I think you're going to see both of them play this year. I think the quarterback room is a very healthy room. I think our defense is going to be really improved. We get Mason Smith back, who got hurt in that Florida State game on like the second series. It was very quirky how he kind of crow hopped after a play and hurt himself. So I think LSU, there's no excuses this year. We've got a full cupboard of talented players. We're in the second year of the Brian Kelly regime. I think we're gonna make a big run at it.
Frank, LSU.
I really do. This year.
Well, let me ask you this: Keyshawn Boutte and players like him. I don't think they were. He's just not my kind of team player. That when I look at him, LSU's always going to have talent. And you look at LSU is referred to as DBU, Defensive Back University.
Yeah.
What about wide receiver university? Didn't we see a stat last year? If you look at the 3 schools that are producing the top wide receivers in the NFL the last 10 or 12 years, it's been Alabama, Clemson, and LSU. It's a very, very close race. Think about Odell Beckham Jr. He went to Isidore Newman, where Peyton, Eli, Cooper Manning, Arch Manning, that's where all the Mannings go. He sat out last year recuperating from an ACL injury in the Super Bowl that they won. But I marvel at LSU's talent. But last year, you talked about your friends that sponsored 3 LSU players for NIL deals. And by the time the season was winding up with the bowl game, none of them were still on the roster. You never know.
Turned out to be not a good buy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hey,
look,
in this economy, you don't want to be throwing money down the drain.
No, you never know until you find out, until you know. But
right.
I look at LSU, and last year they had of all the games on the schedule last year, that Alabama game stuck out. The way Brian Kelly just said, "Hell, we're going for it." I don't want to go to overtime. Why put myself in a position to have to keep going on with these guys? And
we're going to swing out a true freshman tight end in the flat to catch the ball.
Yeah, I like seeing that. And you look around, Frank, at the rest of the SEC. Arkansas, you've got Dan Enos up there going to be working with KJ Jefferson. A&M,
incredible talent too, by the way. Just incredible talent at quarterback.
He is, and we talked with Wes Moore over in Little Rock yesterday, and Franz Beard was saying, hey, if you're KJ Jefferson, a few times a game, just let him roll out right. That 6'4", 245 pounds. Nobody wants to get hit by that. And then you look at the rest of the talent on the roster. Arkansas is going to be pretty good. Dan Enos, again, good offensive coach. A&M, let's talk about them. They've got most of their players back that played last year.
Yeah, they were ranked number 7 on that list of returning talent.
Yeah. Now, 30 guys went into the portal. A lot of that greatest class ever never played in any meaningful downs at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Then you look at Alabama. Alabama right now, Jalen Milroe, you've got Ty Simpson at quarterback. They've got to find a quarterback. For so long, the heir apparent has been obvious. Right now, they've got a
this
quarterback.
This might be the year they struggle on that.
Yeah.
This could be an un-Alabama type quarterback year. You watch.
That's the point. And you're looking around LSU, they've got a proven guy, Jaden Daniels. Auburn, you talk about wide open. They've been so far out of it the last 3 years in football. I think Auburn people are all just okay.
What do you?
They've got to sell their fans back.
Who do you see coming out of that quarterback room, Rob? Who do you see starting?
Hugh Freeze. Robbie Ashford. He can run. He's so fast, but he's got a lot of work to do on his throwing as a passer, and you got to be able to do both.
He's got upside potential. He does have upside potential. He's a talented kid.
Yeah, if you think about him, if they work on his mechanics and he can get his throwing improved and be a 60% plus passer, 62%, 65 would be great. Then you're talking he's the starter. That's a big.
I watched him in that first half sitting there. I watched him in the first half sitting there with Doug Dean and Jordan Hare, watching him just dissect my defense in those first 3 drives, and we couldn't stop him. And if it wouldn't have been for that they kind of got squirrely when they got down there toward the end of the first half.
Yeah.
If they score there, I don't think we have the ability to come back. I would have been too much. But I watched him firsthand. He's got talent.
Yeah, and it's just, to me, when you look at it, Holden Gariner, the freshman out of Benedictine Military Academy over in Savannah, they like him as more of a thrower. And then you got TJ Finley's been there for a while, 6'7", 265. But I don't think anybody knows who it's going to be. It may be, look, if I'm Auburn, I like Robbie Ashford because he gives you so many options. But Nick Marshall had an incredible arm, and he was fast. But on the short and intermediate passes, he struggled. There's a lot of it's just like in golf, and I'm not a golfer, but I talk to a lot of smart golfers like you and Lauren Smith and Buddy Martin and all these people that know golf inside out. The short putting game kills a lot of golfers. They're great at driving it down the fairway, but it's short putt. You drive for show, and you putt for dough. Yeah, that's right. Now, so the Auburn quarterback thing, I think that is Holden Garinger. He may get it, but Robbie Ashford has so much speed and athleticism. But remember, he was out of football. Yeah, for 2 years at Oregon, he played baseball, not football. So he was a true freshman last year. Yeah. Now, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Yeah, Jackson Dart back with Ole Miss. Mississippi State got Will Rogers back. But Mike Leach sadly gone. I still can't wrap my head around that. No. That still to me is just it's mind-blowing how that happened so quickly, and then they went right in and then played that bowl game and played the parts out for him and won at the end. Yeah. Somebody it's just heartbreaking, the whole thing. Somebody's going to write a book about that experience last year and that trajectory of that year and around Mississippi State, because those of us not in the program and not bully fans, I don't think we really understand what it was like to get out onto that field in that bowl game, having lost their coach like that
in such a fashion that was just out of the blue. I mean, it was heart wrenching just to watch. And look, I'm not a Mississippi State guy. I mean, I play them every year, right? I jumped up. I was watching that bowl game up in my theater room at the house. And when I tell you, we kind of got a low ceiling because we got our leather chairs are kind of on this riser. I jumped up so much I almost hit the projector. That's how fired up I was when Mississippi State won that ball game. Just for them,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree with you. And Zach Arnett was the defensive coordinator there, who's now the head coach. And he's smart. He's not going to try to be the next Mike Leach. There's only one Mike Leach. And I look for him he's going to do things differently. He'll probably run it a little bit more. But the passing, the offense that Mike Leach puts in it's complex. And a lot of guys left. They had a lot of guys leave. Yeah. Ra Thomas, one of them is gone, but we're going to have Jake Wimberly on in the second hour from Jackson, Mississippi, and he's really knows Mississippi State well. I hope you're still on with us, but I really want to get into that part of it. But the SEC West, I'm trying to find the one team that is a mess, broken down on the side of the road with 4 bald tires and no gas. I don't see that one team. There.
Just like last year, remember? Yeah. Remember how we joked? LSU was picked last by a lot of people. A lot of the media when they had SEC media days, we were picked last, right? So we all joked. We all said, be the de facto, beast and numbers 2 through 7. You could have put them in a hopper and rolled them out and. You could have argued the outcome no matter.
Yeah. And Frank, I think that you're breaking up a little bit, but what got people,
how the dice were rolled, how it felt.
Yeah. Well, Frank, I looked at the SEC West last year. I thought Alabama was the best team going in, but LSU ended up winning the West. It's quarterback play. And Bryce Young he's an incredible quarterback. But, Alabama, you think about them, they had 5 games that went down to the last play, literally. They could have been 7-5. They could have been 12-0. They ended up 10-2, 11-2 overall. They got a convincing win over Kansas State in the bowl game. They had something to prove. They were hungry. They were aggressive. They went out there and they did what they should have done and what every team should do. When you are representing your school, I am so sick and tired of people saying, well, who cares? The players don't care. Well, then damn it, don't charge for tickets. Don't make people pay for hotels and food and gas and miss work and drag their families and all over the country to a bowl game. If you're a player and you have that attitude, you ought to be taken off scholarship. Frank, I've just had it with people that say these bowl games don't matter, and I was proud of Alabama for going down there and curb stomping Kansas State. First half was close, but they realized I was so proud of Will Anderson Jr. and Bryce Young for playing in that game and saying, look, man, these are my brothers, man. We've been through hell together. We've been through a lot, and we're going to be close friends forever. Yeah. This Alabama team, they didn't win the SEC West. Hell, they didn't win the national championship. But I got a feeling it's going to be one of the closest Alabama teams ever to play at Bryant-Denny because of what they went through. And you've got these guys that half-ass it and don't give a damn in the bowl games. I don't even want their names being brought up, okay?
Yeah. That's what Bryce and Will said that. They both said that week when it was leading up to it. Say, we're here for our teammates. And that's so admirable, right? And you saw what they did to Kansas State. They beat the hell out of them.
And we need more guys like them out there. Yeah. These players, look at the trust me. We talked to some very smart people in the NFL, like Jim Nagy, of the executive director of the Senior Bowl. pro players, coaches, what have you. They're watching every
Absolutely.
game of your career. They're watching your character. You know, Tim Horton, my friend that was the running backs coach at the time at Auburn, he's coaching running backs at Air Force Academy now, said at Auburn's pro day about, 5 years ago, he was there and this guy kept looking over his shoulder and he turned around. It was Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick was asking him about all these Auburn players.
Yeah.
And the questions weren't what's his 40 time and what is he bench press.
What's he like?
What's he like? What does he do when things don't go his way? How
he a
good
locker
is he?
room?
Yeah.
Is he a locker room
teammate?
Yep.
How does he treat his family, his girlfriend? Does he go to class? All because that's what really matters. You know, you can be a super athlete, as my dad famously says over and over. That guy's got $1 million worth of athletic ability and $1.98 worth of brain.
10-cent head, man. $1 million arm and a 10-cent head.
So you don't want that. And also, and I'll reference this, Frank. I was saying at the beginning of the show, over in Wynn, working with the people like Darlene Hill and Walter Hill, and going over there with MJ and David Baker and Michael Sag and Ben Baker. We've been it's just, I'm trying to get the word out. They need your help, but people over there, all these volunteers, they ain't giving to get, they're giving to give.
Yeah.
And, you know, and they're doing things that nobody's seeing, but it matters in the end. And that's what makes you a pro football player. Give me more Will Andersons and Bryce Youngs. Now, granted, you don't like playing against them, but I damn sure want them as teammates.
You certainly tip your hat to them as competitors.
With Frank Duffy right after this. Be right back. All right, Frank Duffy, the American flag in the background in Forest, Iowa. Frank Duffy, you got to love the commitment and the spirit, the love of the RV. This is now his 5th trip to Iowa, to the Winnebago headquarters. Only they can do service. We salute you, Mr. Winnebago service guy. You get under the trunk, you get under the vehicle, and stay for hours on end and never complain. Gotta love it, man. But you pick your team as a fan. Please don't try and tell me you're okay with guys on your team. Well, the game really doesn't matter. Yes, it does. I'm going to keep pounding this until the tickets are free and the hotel rooms are free and all the food is free. You don't cost yourself by missing work. There's no depreciation on your truck or your SUV, whatever, when you're driving. No wear and tear on your family, because that's the real world. When you go to a bowl game, your team better have their hair on fire, playing to win. And I'm telling you, as fans, we need to publicly excoriate these players that quit on their team. Well, I'm just trying to get ready for the draft or whatever. Get out. Look, hey, man, you've been doing that the last 3 years. If you play scared and you live your life scared, you're going to get hurt. So I am just absolutely 110%. If you are wearing my school's jersey and you are on scholarship, you are expected to perform at 110% in every game. Okay? And all these embarrassing bowl losses. I'm telling you, the SEC gets more bowl bids than any league in America year in and year out. But the embarrassing losses, the humiliating curb stompings at the hands of the Minnesotas of the world. You go back to 2019, Auburn, just absolutely embarrassed by Minnesota. Frank, you talk about bowl games where then Coach Gus Malzahn wearing a sweater vest and visor said, we're going to Tampa to play Minnesota to get butter. I don't know what kind of butter it is, but we're going to go butter, and we're going down there. It's a business trip to win. I looked at the roster before that game. Minnesota's roster, all their players. There were 4 players on that roster that had a 4-star rating or higher, no 5 stars. So they were 4-star. The rest of them were 3s, 2s, or I never heard of you. Auburn had 57 players that were 4 or 5-star rosters, and they got their ass handed to them by Minnesota. You betcha. You're the Golden Gophers. You betcha.
By the way, I get hit a 3-wood over the state line to Minnesota from where I'm at. I'm literally like 10 miles away from Minnesota. If I would have brought my tow vehicle, I thought about bringing it. I was going to run up to watch the Twins and the White Sox yesterday up in Minneapolis. It's only like an hour and a half. I'm up at the North Pole, Rob. I'm waiting to see Santa Claus up there.
Hey, it's beautiful up there. But you know, you think about and Derek Browne and Marlon Davidson had come back for their senior years. Yeah. And that Auburn team got just humiliated after having a pretty good year at 9-3. Yeah. Beat Alabama, lost to Georgia 21-14, but inexcusable for all the SEC. I'm telling you, the SEC leads the nation in embarrassing ass beatings by Big Ten and other schools. You talked about the SEC, such a great league. It's a great league. Don't get me wrong. But when you go to a bowl game, there should be a commitment that you're going to win. The fans, you owe it to your fans, your teammates.
Well, we've gotten jaded, of course, because we play for so many national championships that, I saw the meme the other day of how often we play for national championships. And when you include, Auburn's back in 2013, it's like 2010, almost 2010. There's so many of us that rotate into that national championship game that you're only a handful of games since you've been in one, right? And then so when you wind up going to the Alamo Bowl or the Capital One Bowl or whatever, maybe there is a mental drop off. But let me tell you, I've seen it both ways. Look at LSU's last 2 bowl games. Number one, getting totally embarrassed because everybody left the damn team. We only had 35 scholarship players. Yeah. Train wreck. And then we come back next year. Brian Kelly has them fired up. They go in there and dismantle. I think we're still scoring against Purdue. I felt bad. I felt bad for Drew Brees deciding he was going to volunteer to coach Purdue in that bowl game. And, it was like, we killed them. Absolutely killed them. It wasn't even close from the very first, possession. So I've seen it both ways. And I will tell you, yes, it's a quote unquote meaningless bowl game. But when you come off of a bowl game like that, you got to be fired up about coming into the next season. And I think you're going to see that in the spring that LSU has. And whereas when we limped in against Kansas State after getting our brains beat out, now having a quarterback running the single wing, a wide receiver running quarterback at the single wing. You come in, you're a shell of yourself. So, it was absolutely important. And you will see that coming out in this spring. You watch.
Well, Frank, you go back and Nick Saban was talking a couple of years ago about when he got to LSU from Michigan State in 2000. Yeah, he said we had our first team meeting, and the number one goal of everybody in that meeting back in 2000, and I say this with purpose, the number one goal was let's get to the Sugar Bowl. Okay, and now you got guys. Look, during the virus, we picked up some bad habits. Okay, one of them is curbside pickup. Get your fat ass out of your car and go in there and get your own food. This has got to stop, okay? We got more scooters in Walmart than we have walkers, okay? Number 2, okay? I've had it with all of these, the term opt out. No, that's I quit. Quit softening up reality, Okay. This wokeness has got to stop. It is the emasculation of the American culture has got to stop. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what?
I
Send
totally
your
agree.
kids to man camp. Bring them over here to the cherry farm. Guess what, Frank? The other night, we were cooking dinner. Wanted to cook some rainbow trout that I caught up on the Spring River or Rock Bridge. I was out of charcoal. The friendly market was closed. You know what I did? I went out and gathered up a bunch of wood and kindling and stuff, put it on my big barrel grill, and I put some stuff on the side, and I put some bark chips on the side for smoke, and I had smoked rainbow trout with Miss Rubin's Fish Magic Rub on there, some salt, pepper, garlic, butter, olive oil, and fresh sliced lemons, and had smoked rainbow trout with, oh my God, green beans with beef consomme, the way my grandmother Mimi taught me how to make them. I overcame, I improvised, I adapted, and had one hell of a meal.
You and Doug Dean. I'm waiting to go out in the woods and have Doug
come with us this year.
Turkey.
Hey,
and cook it right there, brother. Cook it over fire.
Yeah.
Hey,
look,
you know us coon asses. You know us coon ass Cajuns. We can find a pig somewhere, throw him in a pit, put some coals in there, cover him up, come back 3 days later. We have a couchon de lait, baby.
Yeah, there you go. And look, I'm gonna tell you something. Come with us this year because we did the rainbow trout, and I love eating smoked rainbow trout. Look, you got to figure things out, man. If somebody, here's my point. Tommy Tuberville said it best. He goes, we're supposed to be teaching these kids the lessons of life in college and coddling to them and letting them transfer every time they don't get their way is not preparing them for life. You know, you see speakers going around the country that have a different opinion that, you know, biological men should not be competing against biological women. They get screamed at. Let me tell you something. You know what? Listen to people. Listen to both sides. It's free speech, by the way. It's the First Amendment, the right of assembly. But I'm just going to say, quit calling these players that quit opting out. They're quitters. Okay. And I agree. Well, you got to think about their future. Yeah, I am. But also think about what that university has invested in them. The cost of a scholarship is probably worth $150,000 a year when you factor in all the free. You know, if you're a student athlete at Auburn or Alabama and you need an injury, you need to see an orthopedic surgeon, you get to see Dr. James Andrews. Now, how many people get to say they do that every week?
Hey, I got a shoulder I wish I could get Dr. Andrews to work on right now today.
You're up there in Forest, Iowa. My point is this. Players, the fans own college football. Yeah. And quit coddling these players and saying, well, that bowl game doesn't matter. Then don't go. Boycott. Yeah. You know what? If they're not going to show up 110% committed in it to win it, then don't go. Have zero people.
That showed up in our two bowl games. LSU did not travel to that cluster against Kansas State, but then showed up in Orlando last year. Of course, you know, nicer area, but yeah, absolutely. And look, you can't blame the fans. I mean, if you're not gonna gut it out and stay, I mean, you know, no sense in going, right? So, but I think that's all cleared up. I think you got to keep your house in order, and that starts from the top. And Brian Kelly has us with a house in order. Hey, buddy, I got to cop on a evaluation call for my ESOP. But hey, great talking to you, pal.
All right, great talking to you. You're not opting out, are you?
No, I'm not opting out. I gotta figure out how I can save on these damn tax dollars from Sleepy Joe.
All right, Frank.
All right, brother.
Enjoyed it. Be careful. We'll talk to you tomorrow. All right.
Take care,
was
man.
Frank Duffy up there. I am Floyd R. Turbo American. Listen, college football, college basketball, baseball, if you're a student athlete at any school, you owe it to yourself, your family, the university that's paying for you, your teammates, all these people. You owe it to them. Bottom line, to give 110% every time you play. And if you're not doing that, you know what? Shame on you. Okay. We've got to get back. I don't, a bowl, I don't care. It is a game. They're keeping score. You know, you don't go in there. If you're a CPA, you don't go do someone's taxes and go, it doesn't really matter if I do a good job or not. I'll just half-ass it. If you're a heart surgeon, you're not going to open somebody up for quadruple bypass and sew them back up 75% and say, you know, I'm just feeling like 75% today. You know, if you're an engineer and you're inspecting a 100-story building before it opens, an office building, you're not going to just inspect the first 3 floors, are you? You're going to inspect the whole thing. You know, you've got to be 100%, 100% committed. And if you're not, what are you in it for? I mean, that's where we are as a country. And people need to be standing up for what's right. Riley Gaines, you're welcome on Sidelines. Love to talk to you. I don't believe she's related to the legendary Ambrose E. Rowdy Gaines out of Winter Park, Florida, who literally as an infant fell in the water. I think his mother was one of the Cypress Gardens water skiers down in Florida. Rowdy Gaines, what a true American warrior. Ambrose E. Rowdy Gaines. I think I got it's E, but the name Rowdy. I love the name Rowdy Gaines. But anyway, Riley Gaines, 12-time All-American swimmer at Kentucky, the national champion. First place. She's the best. She is absolutely incredible. People, you better get your heads out of the sand. You know, we got enough ostriches in the world. We don't need any more. Shake off the sand. We salute you, Mr. Stairmaster guy, Dave Aquadro. You've already climbed enough steps to climb to the top of the Empire State Building, and you're not even halfway done. Jake Wimberly's going to join us here in just a few minutes from the bold new city down in Jackson. But, you know, folks, what's going on right now in the spring practices in the SEC? Frank and I just talked about it. The SEC West, find me that weak link. I just don't see the team that I think, you know, quarterback-wise, you know, last year Jimbo Fisher told everybody Haynes King was the man at quarterback for Texas A&M. Didn't work out that way. But A&M's got a lot of talent. They've got a lot of talent. And, again, Doug Dean's going to talk with us about who's got the most talent coming back in terms of production. They do. Alabama's got a lot of talent, but in terms of production, yeah, they did lose a lot. But you know what? Nick Saban's still the head coach. They've made some changes. You know, Pete Golding is now defensive coordinator at Ole Miss. He's not there anymore. But they got Kevin Steele, who I think is one of the best defensive coordinators in America. I mean, everywhere he goes, the defense improves. They're going to be strong. Alabama, though, right now, you know, Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, those are two really good quarterbacks. You know, Milroe's out of Texas. Ty Simpson's out of Martin, Tennessee. His dad's football coach up at UT Martin. You look at, godly, KJ Jefferson. If this guy will learn to stay in the pocket and not run as much and not get himself banged up, let's say he's healthy in 11 or 12 of Arkansas's regular season games. Arkansas could win every one of those games. They needed him at Starkville last year. They needed him. LSU came up there after beating Alabama. That line was just screaming. LSU won that one 13-10. You go back to 2021, Arkansas won most of the close games. Ended up with a 9-4 record. 22, they ended up losing a lot of the close games. They were 7, and 6. This is year 4 for Sam Pittman, Big Sam Pittman. He's made some incredible additions on his staff. We're going to talk more. Sidelines, hour number 2, right after this.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Heading into hour number 2, Sidelines on this Tuesday. Again, hour number 2 brought to you by rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis. Keep this in mind, people. You can go to the website now and join on the Founders Club memberships. There are a few of those available. They're going to have classes starting. You need to get signed up. Here's the layout. Beautiful, brand new studio, Union and McLean, Midtown Memphis. 24 weight benches with the dumbbells. In the middle, open area, group instruction. And on the other side, 24 punching bags. They're hanging the big teardrop punching bags. Easy on your hands, when you're punching. You're not going to walk out of there with permanent tendonitis, I don't think. When you see this facility, it is absolutely elite. Boxing works both sides of your brain, works every muscle in your body, hand-eye coordination, works your feet, works your core. You're going to have tough veteran instructors that know what they're doing. RumbleBoxingGym.com opens April 17th on Monday. Go to the website, RumbleBoxingGym.com/Midtown Memphis. This is going to change the way you look at exercise. Core strength is everything. Planks, push-ups, dips, pull-ups, dead hangs, chin-ups, wide grip, close grip. That's where you build your strength. If you think about what do Navy SEALs do, what do Army Rangers do, especially if SEALs are deployed for months on end in the desert, they do this kind of training. This is the best training there is. RumbleBoxingGym.com. And Camp Lee opening the first of her 3 Memphis locations Monday, April 17th at Union and McLean, right there in Midtown Memphis. Easy to get to, easy parking, and tons of bars and restaurants around you. So after the workout, you can go unwind with your fellow warriors. Gotta love it. Hey, I love the fact that we've got Jake Wimberly joining us right now. Jake down at ESPN 105.9, the afternoon drive in the bold new city, Jackson, Mississippi. And Jake, getting a lot of stuff in here from my friend Dave Cody, who was longtime sports anchor out in Austin, Texas for the last 37 years. And we're talking about, Bijan Robinson quit on his team. I don't use the term opted out. You quit. I was raised where you follow through. You're in it to win it. And Texas almost lost to Washington in the Alamo Bowl. And before we get into Mississippi State and Ole Miss and Southern and all things in the Magnolia State, do you agree with me that during the virus, we've picked up some bad habits? Curbside pickup, get out and get in there. That's over. Get out, go get it. You need the exercise. Number 2, opting out. It's just, I quit. Don't you want a team full of guys, if you're a fan and you're paying money for the bowl tickets, hotels, travel, don't you expect that team to have your commitment to win for spending thousands of dollars? Nothing makes me more angry than people say, well, it really doesn't matter if they're not playing for the national championship. Well, show me how many teams play for the national championship. That's not an excuse. Jake? Yeah. Okay, Jake, you may be on mute, but yeah. As far as the opting out and the guys quitting, that part right there, I don't know. I'm with Dave. Football is a team game. There's no me in team. You got to be in it, committed 100%. But fans have got to start raising hell about this, unless you just like flushing money down the toilet. Because when you're traveling to a bowl game or basketball, any of this stuff, excuse me, but let's try it again with Jake Wimberly. Jake, hopefully it's better now, but are you with me on this campaign, this grassroots? I am Floyd R. Turbo, American from the old Johnny Carson show. Damn it, you're in there to win it. Let's go win the bowl game. None of this, we don't care. How about Mississippi State? And Frank Duffy was on with us right before you came on. How proud you got to be, if you're a Mississippi State fan, that team won that game, and how surreal it is that Mike Leach isn't here anymore.
No, I agree with you. First off, and Rob, I appreciate you joining me. Sorry about the technical difficulty there. But, yeah, for Mississippi State in the bowl game, that was a huge deal for them to get that win after the passing of Mike Leach. But I got enough, I think, of what you were saying with, like, Bijan Robinson and some of these guys is that's just kind of the culture that we've created. And look, I always try to go both sides of the coin in that I see an athlete's point, especially if you're a first-round pick, maybe, hey, I don't want to take a shot here. What if I tear a knee up or I, dislocate a shoulder, any kind of injury in a bowl game? I get it. But a lot of these guys are not, most of these guys are not first-round picks. So, I say go play the bowl game. We're seeing a lot of these guys play the bowl game. You see the same thing in the NBA, and a lot of people now are complaining about it in that you get down to the end of the NBA season. Yep. You and your wife take 2 kids, and you're going to take the kids to the basketball game. You're going to spend all this money to go park, eat, all this stuff. Yeah. Oh, and you get there, and you don't even get to see LeBron James or Steph Curry or pick an athlete because they decided they wanted to sit out. Now, you're getting paid all that money. You should play the game, just like college athletes. I think, look, your own scholarship, you're doing something that other people would die to do, play the game. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. And I know as a Grizzlies fan, a lot of years I'll go to 25, sometimes 30 Grizzlies games a year. And growing up, taking my kids there, and that makes you mad late in the season. And that's what we always worried about with the college football playoff is that if you go, we've got 4 now, we're going to 12 here, is let's say late season. What if Mississippi State or Ole Miss had sewed up home field advantage in the playoff, and they decided to sit some starters, and of all things, the Egg Bowl, which might be the meanest, nastiest rivalry. But believe it or not, Jake, I know I'm not going to get struck by lightning when I say this. There's more respect in the Iron Bowl between Auburn and Alabama, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. You need Gordon Solich, Dave Browne, Lance Banana Nose Russell. That is must-watch TV because, God, I love Mississippi. I love that. I will not miss the Egg Bowl.
I tell you, I was there in 97 as a student when there was a fight on the field. Deuce McAllister was on the field. Wes Shivers. Helmets were being slung around, there on some of the other occasions on fights. Once 80s, I believe there was a punt. Guy called a fair catch in the Egg Bowl. He got smoked. The benches cleared. Matt Corral comes out swinging his freshman year in the end zone. So, yeah, it's a very intense rivalry. And boy, they have had some moments in that rivalry for sure.
Yeah, and I think about Deuce McAllister out of Morton, Mississippi. God, he was that is one of the best running backs ever in the SEC. Let's talk Mississippi State and go to Ole Miss. Zach Arnett, he's not going to try to be Mike Leach. I mean, nobody can be Mike Leach. There was only one Mike Leach, and that coaching tree is spread out pretty far. He's going to incorporate some of what he learned from him because you'd be an idiot not to. What do you think Mississippi State's going to look like? They won 9 games last year. They had some guys leave, but they also got some new guys coming in.
Well, it's interesting you bring this up. Yesterday, David Murray with Gene's page, 247 Sports, he's been covering state athletics as long as anybody in Starkville. He was on with us, and we were talking about Mississippi State and what he saw out of the scrimmage this past weekend. Mississippi State obviously will play their annual maroon and white game coming up this weekend at Super Bulldog Weekend. But an interesting stat, Rob, the Bulldogs, and I don't remember the exact number, but if they threw it 22 times, they ran it 35 times. So now there was some receivers that were out of the scrimmage and such, but I think Mississippi State, while, Arnett's saying the right things, hey, look, we're still going to be air raid principled. That's kind of a blanket statement because a lot of offenses, Patrick Mahomes is air raid principled. Joe Burrow is air raid principled. So, but I think you're going to see this team commit more to the running game. Now, what does that look like? Some ball games that may be, a situation where the run-pass ratio is in the favor of the run. Will Rogers is absolutely able to throw it. They're going to throw it down the field more. They're going to use the tight ends more. I know from talking to people up there, they're going to expand the running game by not only the running backs, but putting guys in the slot, giving it to them on speed sweeps. Just think, and this is a small scale, is if you watch the NFL, what the San Francisco 49ers do with their offense, and that multiple guys touch the ball at different levels. It's not traditionally the running back's going to run the football or wide receiver's going to catch the football. So I think it's going to be an interesting style and an interesting brand. And I think Zach Arnett with Kevin Barbet is putting his stamp on this program. Yeah.
And, I'll go back in time. Let's go back, 40 years ago, Miami, that 83 team, Howard Schnellenberger that won the national championship. They had guys on that team. Their running game was a 3-yard dump pass across the line of scrimmage. Benny Blades, Alonzo Highsmith, players like that. They did a lot of that. And then defensively, they were faster than most teams they played offensive skill players, and they neutralized them. And I think that I think the shelf life of an offense is about 3 years, and you better change it radically. Zach Arnett, to be able to do as well as he did on defense, having a Mike Leach offense, which puts your defense on the field a lot of quick scores. I like him mentally. I like his frame of mind because he understands how that works. If you can hold a team nowadays, a defense, if your defense average is giving up 23, 24 points a game, that's considered to be pretty good. Now, a few teams are holding teams to 11 or 12 like Georgia, and they're winning national championships. But LSU and Auburn won national championships with giving up the most points in school history on defense in 2010 and 2019. So you can do it both ways, but it's a little more – you're going to have a few more close games.
No, you're absolutely right. And, we were talking about this yesterday with Chris Landry from Landry Football about – and this is just my opinion personally. And, of course, shameless plug, starting next week, we'll be dropping our annual analytics on college football throughout the Southeastern Conference and then some other conferences as well. But I think what you're starting to see, and this has really only happened at the bigger programs, your Georgias, your Alabamas, your Ohio States, your Michigans, USCs. Now, USC is a little different animal, but we see what Georgia is and the way Georgia, because Rob, you'll remember this and your listeners and people that watch your show will remember this. About 5 years ago, we said, well, the old way of doing football is dead. We're just going to throw it down the field. If you don't believe it, look what Alabama's doing. Look at the way they're throwing the ball with Mac Jones and now Bryce Young. Georgia has flipped this thing back towards the other way just a little bit. Big time run game, a lot of tight end play. They still throw the ball when they need to. They play really good defense. Michigan is built in a very similar mold. They're building that same mold. They recruit well, not quite with Georgia. They use the tight end. They use the run game, play good defense. Believe it or not, Notre Dame is going to be pretty darn good this year. They love their tight ends up there in South Bend. Got a new transfer quarterback coming in and play good defense. If you look at Mississippi State, they want to use the tight end more. Ole Miss, we'll talk about them. They want to use the tight end more. So you're seeing kind of a regression back to some of the older principles. And I think that's because you take Tennessee, for instance, you can run 70, 75, 80 plays a game. Your defense is going to get exhausted. And it's just like TCU against Georgia in the national title game. They had to score with Georgia step for step, or they didn't have a shot. They couldn't do it, and they had no shot. So you better be able to run the football just a little bit and play some defense.
Yeah, and that, I think we look at the history of college football. Go back. I mean, it all began Rutgers 6, Princeton 4, November 6th, 1869. We've seen single wing, wing T. We've seen box formations. I go back. Lavelle Edwards, 1979, 11-0 Brigham Young team. I think they were undefeated, but they came on the scene. You had guys like Jim McMahon, Robbie Bosco, these incredible West Coast offenses, they called them, Bill Walsh. Well, the guy that brought the West Coast offense really to the Southeastern Conference in 1948, when he coached his first game after being at TCU, Coach John Vaught. That guy was a badass. 196 wins, 6 SEC titles, 3 national champions. He was running that. Look at the quarterbacks that he got, Jake. I mean, Ole Miss from 48 to 72 was what Georgia and Alabama and LSU and Auburn and Florida and all, they want to be, think they are. That's what they were, but they ran that West Coast type offense. So we've seen it before. It just comes and goes, and you've just got to put your own wrinkle on it, don't you?
You do. And look, if you're going to be, it's kind of a double-edged sword. If you're a program like Mississippi State and Ole Miss, or let's just say Oklahoma State, Kentucky, kind of a mid-tier program, you're not going to be able to line up 2 tight ends and run it down Alabama's throat. You're not going to be able to run it down Georgia's throat. Hugh Freeze got it at Ole Miss. You had to be able to throw it and throw it well. You couldn't throw it all the time. But you look at the way when Hugh Freeze beat Alabama, he did it with Chad Kelly. I believe Chad Kelly, 2 ball games, and Bo Wallace, I think combined 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in 3 ball games. I mean, they played phenomenal football quarterback. But Hugh Freeze also had a really good defense in 2015. They were able to run the football as well. So you have to be able to throw it and spread the field, especially if you're a mid-tier program. But you better be able to run it. If you go to this wide open style and that's all you're doing, and I think that's one of the hiccups with the air raid, and it always was, is that, watching, I was sitting in Tuscaloosa last year when Alabama beat Mississippi State, and that was not a fun game to watch. State just was very ineffective. Same way with Georgia, very ineffective. If you could do something a little different and just run the football a little bit and create some mismatches in some other ways, I think you'd be better off. And I think that's what Mississippi State is doing with this new style of offense that they'll be playing.
Yeah, and they're going to be good. They look, everybody, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking the SEC is what it was 15 or 20 years ago, where Ole Miss and Mississippi State's athletic budgets were not even $50 million. Hell, you're getting that much just from SEC TV rights or the SEC revenue sharing. That's about to go up even more because we're leaving that $55 million a year deal with CBS after this year, and ESPN's going to pay us $300 million. I'm going to miss that CBS 2:30 game. It's iconic. And there's my kids, like they say, growing up with Grandbob, my dad, and my boys and me, that's iconic. But we'll work through it. Okay. We're going to take a break. We got a few more minutes when we come back with you. I want to ask you about Ole Miss because last year we talked a lot about them in the preseason. Jackson Dart was a guy that Lane Kiffin would like. Luke Altmaier's transferred now. Lane Kiffin always figures it out. The end of last season, the flirtation with Auburn and Auburn's flirtation with him, that's just a distraction, and it was. Now he's got to win back his team and his fan base, And let's talk about that. Take a quick break. More with Jake Wimberly.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Maynard, a fourth-generation residential broker with Hobbs & Realtors. Inventory is still a record low in Memphis, and the demand for more supply is continuing to spread across the Mid-South. Rates are starting to stabilize, which means the number of buyers is picking up daily. If you are interested in taking advantage of today's market, please give me, Eleanor Maynard, your Sidelines Live residential specialist, a call today, and let's discuss your needs. 901-761-1622 or directly on my mobile, 901-219-1905. That's 219-1905.
All right, heading up to Oxford, and Mississippi State will play their spring game, obviously, Saturday, Jake. But Ole Miss quarterback situation, Lane Kiffin, I put him and Mike Leach now, but he's gone. And those guys, Josh Heupel, these are elite quarterback coaches. Ole Miss last year, their schedule was loaded, heavy on the back end with the better teams. Let's talk about that going into the spring in the 23 season.
Well, one of the things that you're hearing coming out of Oxford is Jackson Dart's playing much better football. And I think that's just by default of having a better quarterback room. I mean, you mentioned Luke Altmaier. He's competing for the starting job in Illinois now, but that quarterback room is better with Spencer Sanders. It's better with Howard from LSU. Now, Spencer Sanders, he hasn't gotten his shake yet. He's battling some injuries, but all accounts, and Lane Kiffin has said it too, is Jackson Dart is playing better football. And I think anytime that you sharpen up the room, you throw a new coat of paint in it, you put some alerts in the room, it's going to make those that can, get their game up a little better. They do it. Those kind of fall for the wayside. Jackson Dart has looked better. So offensively, I think you're going to see Ole Miss. Obviously, you could argue the best running back in the conference, one of the best in the country, and Judkins. They've got some tight ends. Michael Trigg comes back off injury this year. They've got another transfer tight end coming in that they really like. And again, you hear a tight end theme, tight end at a lot of these schools. But the schedule flips for them. They add Georgia this year. They have to go to Tulane. That's going to be a tricky game in week 2. So, they could be the best team in the group of 5 this year. Ole Miss could be better, and their record could actually look worse just because the schedule flips on them this year.
Well, I just, as a fan, and the coaches and players, they know it. You hate getting off to a 6-0, 7-0 start and knowing all your bigger games are in the back. You like to have that more evenly spaced out. But I know looking at Ole Miss they're with Lane Kiffin there, I think their floor is 8 wins. I think they're not going to win anything less than 8. And just he's there, and I think he's committed. I think he really, really wants to be there. I mean, his kids. If he will look, people are always going to come after him. But if he's dialed in 100%, yeah, I'm with you. And I think having a quarterback room. What about Spencer Sanders? 4 years at Oklahoma State. He's over there. And then you've got Howard, golly, a 5-star quarterback. I mean, you can't take off a day and think, hey, I've got this thing. That's the best thing to happen to Ole Miss. I'm with you.
No, it is. I mean, Howard's the guy for the future. He's definitely going to have an opportunity to play early if that door does open. But you're right, Spencer Sanders, you get a guy when he gets healthy. I mean, they're going to have a 1-2 punch there, and you may see Kiffin roll 2 guys out there at different times in Jackson Dart and Spencer Sanders. So quarterback-wise, and I'm with you, Rob, I think Ole Miss, because of, now that Kiffin is focused, the flirtation, Kiffin has talked openly a little bit about that and about how that affected him a little bit. I think you're going to see this team. He's going to be more dialed in. They'll, like you said, all offenses, they kind of, mature into the way that the coaches wants them to be from year in and year out. They'll still be lean on the run game, but I think Ole Miss is going to have one of the better offenses in the Southeastern Conference this year. And I think it's by default having a better quarterback room.
Yeah, look, we ran out of time, and I wanted to get into another topic. You're passionate about Ole Miss baseball and Mississippi State baseball. I'm in shock. I mean, the defending back-to-back national champions. But let's get into that more next week. I know you got a tight schedule. I promised I'd get you off by 20 after. Tell people about your show, how they can follow you on social media. And again, thank you so much. My listeners, we all appreciate you taking time to join us. It means a lot.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be here as always. Yeah, just on Twitter at Jake Wim. You can stream the show if you're outside the listening area of Mississippi on the zone1059.com, 3 to 6 each and every day, Monday through Friday here. If you're inside the central Mississippi footprint, most of the central Mississippi area, just turn it to 105.9 on the FM dial.
Is that Super Talk Mississippi?
Nope, that's going to be our competitor, but hey, we love our friends over at Super
Sorry
Talk.
about that. Sorry about that. Okay, so it's
no
105 point. But bottom line is you're Monday through Friday.
There you go. Monday through Friday, ESPN Radio here in Jackson.
Yeah, got it. Hey, thanks so much. Look forward to talking to you next week, Jake. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All righty. All right. We got Doug Dean joining us. Doug, are you going turkey hunting? Are you going trout fish? By the way, we smoked some trout. I talked to Frank. He was on with us from up in Iowa at the Winnebago Center. We smoked some of those big Rockbridge trout on the smoker. Put them with Miss Rubin's rubs, which is the fish magic, and some salt, pepper, garlic, butter, olive oil, fresh sliced lemons, and put them out there on the grill with just a bunch of wood I gathered on the grounds of the cherry farm, and put some in the smoker on the side smoker, and that just goes over, it's attached to that barrel grill, and had it with green beans with consomme and ice cold Ham's beer, folks. The beer you've been looking for since 1865. Ain't woke. But Doug, where are you today? You look like you're on assignment.
Well, I had to scoot at hours most people are still snoozing. About 4:30 this morning, I had to scoot down the hour and a half drive. God, what a beautiful ride down Highway 5 from West Blockton or Woodstock. Not that Woodstock, but the one off I-20. West Blockton, 40 miles to Marion, and then on down to my place, Hunting Club on the Cahaba, to take some supplies down. We're doing some work on the repairs on the farmhouse, and you ought to be real familiar with how that is enjoyed, Rob, in your zip code.
The labor of love, Doug.
Yes. But I love that the bones on that house y'all have got is going to be magnificent when you finish, which will probably be 5 or 10 years from now.
Sooner than that. Sooner. We're going to win the lottery. But it's a good excuse to be outdoors.
If you can flip it from DIY to hiring contractors, it can happen fast. But back in Birmingham, going to get to the office. I got to go to Nashville later today for a conference. But thanks for having me on. And I was going to tell Jake Wim, I like the way you talk, Jake. Yeah,
I tell you what, man, he is dialed in the state of Mississippi. And Doug, hang on with. Hopefully you can hang on with us, because we're gonna have Jordan Hill come on with us, 24/7 Sports, about 33 after, covers Georgia. But bottom line, I want to get your thoughts about A-Day down on the plains. And it was 5 years ago. You remember April 7th of 2018? I was down there at A-Day, and it was 35 degrees. It snowed up in Memphis and Oxford and in Arkansas. But what was it? What were your takeaways?
So, I've always said, I should say the last 3 or 4 years, I finally wised up and said, please don't torture yourself trying to draw linear conclusions from A-Day performances. They're just notoriously foolers. You can be fooled that we're really bad. You can be fooled that we're going to win the national championship. And the reason they are is typically, and I don't think Freeze was any different, because it's on TV, they don't want to show too much. And secondly, that they're engineering things where the defense is very vanilla for the most part. They're not going to bring exotic blitzes or anything or coverages. And because of the inclement weather, and boy, it was bad. It really hurt attendance. May have put a little damper on the having a great visit with so many recruits on campus, but they dialed back. They really wanted to throw the ball all around the place to see what the quarterbacks had learned, and they had to kind of scrap that, partly to prevent injury, partly because it was just going to be a waste of time trying to throw in that kind of condition. So what I saw is we definitely have an improved offensive line, especially run blocking. Now, in any A-Day game, and Georgia's G-Day, I guess they call it, is this Saturday. the intrigue there to me will be who's the heir apparent to help me, Bennett.
Stetson Bennett the fourth, yeah.
Bennett the fourth. And I would bet on Carson Beck right now. Is that his name?
Yeah. Carson Beck, Gunnar Stockton. Those are the two, I think. Yeah.
And so, and keep an eye on, if Vandegrift's not the starter, you might see him flirt with the portal, and Auburn would hope to be at the front of the line getting consideration.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And so, anyway, back to the A-Day. You could also say, well, since we had a good run game, is our defensive front really weaker than we hoped? And so I don't think it's either. The truth's always in the middle. My MVP, this may surprise you, of spring from reports I've gotten is we know what Jarquez Hunter can do, but Damari Alston come on as a back that can do it all. He can pass.
Yeah.
He's got a different cut to get extra yardage than Jarquez. Jarquez can run away from you or run over you. Alston is going to be a changeup, and I really like that. That's about a 3 or 4 deep backfield, and that's before we even get the freshman sensation on campus this summer. So we're going to have a very good secondary, just need more depth. Very good 5 or 6 deep defensive front, and 5 or 6 linebackers. Unlike last year, Harsin would have this uneven snap count with linebackers, 2 of them getting 70% of the snaps and exhausted end of game. What Roberts likes to do is play at least 5 or 6 linebackers all season long and keep them fresh.
Yeah. And, Ron Roberts is a guy I've talked about on this show. We all have for years because of the creeper defense he developed at Delta State and Southeast Louisiana. And it's supposed to be really good at slowing down RPOs. Well, go back to that Baylor game against Ole Miss a couple of years ago. And I always say this. I know you're going to tell me that Jeff Lebby, offensive coordinator at Ole Miss, had already announced he was going to Oklahoma with Brett Venables, but he was still there. Baylor completely suffocated Ole Miss in that game. That defense was fantastic. And don't discount that. But you're talking about the team, in the spring. That's why, what did you really gain from it? Well, you learned that at least Freeze is letting these assistant coaches get out in front of the media more.
Yeah.
So I think the fans are starting to go, okay, you know what? I can relate to this team, because the last 3 years, Auburn's been basically running around in the wilderness, like a lost kid that can't remember his phone number and his parents' address. And they're coming back. I think Auburn right now is like buying Exxon when it was $35 a share, when the price of oil was damn near zero just a few years ago. And I remember telling people, look, Exxon doesn't just make oil. They do a lot. And buy it. Don't forget that dividend. Auburn is a deep discount value stock paying a 4.5% dividend. They're a good buy. Quarterback question for you. Robbie Ashford is such an athlete. I mean, he's Nick Marshall type athlete. Can he get his throwing motion improved to where he can throw like Nick, but even better, can he master the short and intermediate pass?
Yeah, great. That's the question. First, on the first stock compare investment sell question you raised, I got to react to that, because you're through the back door, you're pimping your financial guide advisory services.
Yes, so sir.
I'm calling you on it. At least let your day job be a sponsor on the show. You probably have to complete a conflict of interest form for that. But so yeah, I absolutely, and both of us are having to adjust the aperture on our orange and blue colored glasses to have any sort of objective opinion. But let's just forget, like Dave Compton, who was on your show Saturday morning, I got to join. Am I saying that?
Hey, Dave Tompkins. Yeah.
My bad. Sorry, Dave. listening. Dave Tompkins, he was outstanding on the show, and he's one of those Bama guys, which is fine. You got to pick one in this state, but when I hear my intelligent, high football IQ Bama and Georgia friends say from what they observe and hear, especially on the recruiting front, but also the coaching philosophy front, that they be keeping an eye on Auburn as a threat in the near term. That tells me that what I'm seeing is it's more likely that Auburn's trajectory is going to be contending in the SEC West within 2 or 3 years than it is that Hugh's going to be like, I'll use the analogy of Ron Zook at Florida. Great recruiter, remember? And he would get the highly ranked class, almost never did anything with them. I do not think that's Hugh Freeze. I think with the staff he's put together and just what you can do at Auburn with resources, with our NIL recruiting, that this year could be bumpy. I'm putting the ceiling at 7, 8 wins, maybe 9 if they get a QB in the portal that is a plug and play. But you asked about Robbie Ashford. Now shut up.
No.
You look at Robbie and you really want him to master the passing attack that Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery believe in, because even if he's just a little better than serviceable at that, enough to back these defenses out of the box, then be a lethal offense. We know we've got tremendous running backs. There will be a couple or 3 wide receivers to complement these tight ends if you give them time. That's been a disappointment this spring, but they'll probably go in the portal if they can and get an elite wide receiver. And if they don't, then guess what this offense is going to look like, Rob? The production-wise, it's going to remind us, I believe, of 2013 Auburn, in which we are running the ball 60% of the time, and people will have trouble stopping us.
Yeah, and you know why? It's because most people aren't doing it. And if you use a heavy tight end set, most people don't see that much. And I'm with you. You do such a great job in the dose of taking what a lot of people see. Like, we can all go to the grocery store and buy steak, chicken, fish, and then we can go home and try to cook it. And then I can get my friend Chef Roger to help me. Or, if you had Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen, that's what a great coach. One thing about Hugh Freeze, and I followed him for a long time, is he's a great developer of talent. But Doug, hang on with us, and I'm going to get you back on again later during the week if you can join us. But we're going to bring on Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports. Jordan's one of my favorite guys we have on this show. He covered Auburn for a long time before he moved up to Athens. Now he's a Georgia man and a damn good man. But I'll tell you one thing. And in fact, I don't need to get one of those mics like what you've got, much more professional. I look like Edward R. Murrow on the evening news of CBS. But Jordan, this is Doug Dean, the AU Dose in Birmingham, on assignment down on the Cahaba River. We're going to take a quick break and be right back. But I want to get started because you cannot talk about Auburn without talking about our good friends to the east and our good friends to the west. And you are in the classic city, Athens, Georgia. Lauren, what do you got? I got Jordan Hill. He is the king of the Bulldog Nation right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back with Doug Dean and Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports on Georgia for the final segment on this Tuesday show. Doug, jump in here, man.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Jordan, I just really want to, on behalf of the SEC, extend my sympathies to you that you've got such a pathetic football product to cut. I mean, it's just got to be. You can't find anything to write or talk about, can you, Jordan?
No,
Yeah.
I mean I'm soliciting questions from people for stories. I got nothing. I've been sitting around here twiddling my thumbs till Rob got me up on the radio show this morning.
Hey, I'm not one of those hating Auburn fans. There comes a point when you see really good football being played and coached that you tip your hat. And I know that, especially the championship 2 years ago, after losing miserably in the SEC championship game, that was a big, big deal to Georgia people, getting a monkey off the back. And now it's like they're a prize fighter and they're tasting that blood, and the rest of us have a big problem on our hands.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one of those things where it was like if they could get over that hump, that maybe it would kind of open things up. And this has been said before. This is not me coming up with this, but had that come against anyone but Alabama, I still think that would have been hanging out there. That yeah, they won it, but I mean they did it against Alabama. So had that come against somebody else, I think that would have still been lingering. And obviously if that one wouldn't have happened, they didn't play Alabama last year either. So you would have still had that, people chirping about that and saying, well, they still can't beat Alabama. Well, they did it in that game, and I do think that means a lot as far as just where this program is, because you can't really throw that question out there of will they ever beat Alabama. I mean, they did with everything on the line, and I think that for Georgia fans, that has to make it so much sweeter.
Yeah, and there'll be some anti Georgia Bulldog people that'll say, well, LSU and LSU and Tennessee get an assist, if you will, in Georgia's championship last year. I don't think that's fair because Alabama had a chance to only have one loss and get to play Georgia. But, every title run, guys, you need a little luck somewhere along the way, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I've talked about this on here before with Rob. The knock on Georgia, and rightfully so, was that they went so long without championships. But that luck piece of it, it went against Georgia a few years. 2002, their only loss was to Florida, and there's a play in that game where David Pollock makes an interception. He tries to lateral it to one of his teammates who runs it back. Well, they called the pitch forward, so they call that play back. They wind up losing that game. They could have gone undefeated that season had they beaten Florida. You go to 2012 when they played Alabama in the SEC title game, back and forth game, probably honestly the most exciting game I've ever watched. And Georgia's driving down, no timeouts, trying to take the lead late. Ball gets tipped. Chris Conley falls on it, I think on maybe like the 6 or the 5. I mean, they were coming in to score. Yeah. Clock runs out. So, it's to your point, Doug. I mean, it's all about luck. You have to have the breaks your way. Georgia's gotten them recently, but, as Georgia fans would be quick to remind people, there's been many times in the years before that where they didn't get those breaks.
Yeah, and Rob, I'm not stealing your show, I promise.
No, I want this.
Real quick, and how ironic, so many ironies about that can happen when you look back at a championship year or this 2-year run Georgia's had, that if they're honest, it's got Bama fans a little queasy. Not that they're scared. I mean, good grief, the GOAT is their coach. I don't think Kirby's himself would say he's stolen the GOAT moniker quite yet. There's work to do, but some of the luck, arguably, was benefited Coach Smart in the fact that Stetson Bennett was so damn hard-headed when he kept being told, hey, you look like a third or fourth stringer to me. Yeah. Kirby was all but telling him to transfer. He said, no, I'm not. And the kid, was hard-headed, and Georgia is the beneficiary of that.
Yeah, they don't win those championships without Stetson Bennett. Now, that's not to say he played perfect the whole way through, but no quarterback does. But, I mean, you look at, let's say Stetson had left. JT Daniels was really good, but JT Daniels could not stay healthy. I mean, and that's what opened the door up for Stetson to take over during the 2021 season. He started that season as the backup. And when we were at SEC Media Days that summer, after JT Daniels went up and spoke and did really well, there was a minute or two he was the betting favorite for the Heisman. People don't remember that because, I mean, that changes so much in the offseason. But, let's say Stetson's not there, JT Daniels gets hurt. and they're probably looking at Carson Beck, who's a young guy, having to put him in that role. They don't go undefeated in the regular season if that happens. I mean, Stetson deserves a ton of credit for what this team has accomplished the last 2 years, and that's what makes this year so fascinating. Is we know no matter who wins this job, it's going to be a first-time starter, and it's going to be new territory for whoever it is, and there's going to be growing pains that come with that.
Well, when you look at Georgia's schedule, last year, nobody saw South Carolina at the end of the year whacking Tennessee when they were trying to get into the college football playoffs, 63-28, whatever it was, or 63-35, whatever. And then they beat Clemson the next week and broke since 2016, a 41-game home winning streak. South Carolina is going to be a pain in the ass. They're not going anywhere. Florida's got more work to do. I mean, they're having their spring game Thursday night. But Tennessee, as long as Josh Heupel's there, they're going to be back. And I heard Steve Smith, former wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers, was on Feinbaum yesterday with Roman Harper. Great question and answer session. But Steve was wrong. Hendon Hooker didn't go out in the middle of the season. He went out in game 11. But we know that Joe Milton, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, is back at Tennessee in his 10th year of college football. Josh Heupel's been coaching him a long time now. They're going to be good. So when people say, look, Georgia, when they look at their schedule, what do they have to get excited about? I mean, did I make a pretty good case? And we're not even talking about who they play from the West and other games. And then that pressure to three-peat. I mean, that's a great story. Is that your lead?
Yeah, I mean, the pressure is going to be there. And, the thing that I always want to remind people with the schedule, which, I mean, I'm going to admit it's pretty weak, but that there will be those surprise teams. Somebody's going to emerge in the East. Right now, I really like South Carolina just with the way they've been building. But they were going to play at Oklahoma this year, and that would have been their marquee non-conference game, which credit to Kirby Smart. In the time he's been at Georgia, he's been very big about playing games that, frankly, I mean, he said it, that players are going to get up for. But the SEC took that game off, essentially, telling Georgia, look, you guys are going to get ready to go play them. I don't know if it will be at Oklahoma, but that, you may wind up playing in Norman twice in a short span of time. So they took that game off. And then I think there might have been a Tennessee-Texas game or something like that was also pulled from the schedule. But, it's going to be one of those situations where, one, like you said, Georgia – is going to have to continue to get up for these games, and I think they will because they've done a very good job while Kirby has been the head coach of making each game such a big deal and making sure that they show up and are ready to play. But what I am intrigued by, and I've talked about this on a few different radio hits, Georgia really doesn't have, as it stands right now, a lot of margin for error when this, if they go 11-1, they're probably going to need some help because there's not a lot of really, really big games as long as they would get the boost if they go to the SEC title game, if they win that. But you're looking at Tennessee, South Carolina, Ole Miss should be pretty good. And the rest of it kind of seems, questionable right now. How good will Kentucky be with a new quarterback? Will Florida take any steps forward with Billy Napier? What kind of turnaround can Brent Key make in his first full year at Georgia Tech?
Yeah.
It's not a game that's got like an Oregon or a number 1 Tennessee this time around. They're not going to have the luxury of having a pretty tough schedule to kind of lean on in the event they wind up losing a game.
Jordan, I can comment on that. If you're referring to the vagaries of the selection committee, since they're picking 4, not 12 teams, then I do see a scenario, to your point, that if Georgia were to have either no losses or maybe 1 loss, and were to lose, for example, to Alabama in the SEC championship game, then it's possible that a 2-loss Georgia would be on the outside looking in. But I don't see anybody giving Georgia trouble all the way up to, it sounds silly to say that. This is college football. It's the SEC. But I think that I would bet on Georgia being undefeated, even after the losses of talent they had going into the SEC championship game. And if they're not, then I think you'll agree that Kirby Smart should be fired. Are we in agreement on that?
Yeah,
right.
We'll take him.
Right. I was going to say there's going to be some other folks that would get on him in a real hurry, no doubt.
Yeah.
There was tweet, Rob, I think I sent it to you and Duffy yesterday, that is so meaningless statistics, fun to look at, but the great Bill Connolly, who's quite the analyst in football, looked at returning production on SEC teams, and to my amazement, I think Auburn was third in who they returned. The problem is we didn't have any production. So just because you're returning that guy, it means, once again, we will have little or no production offensively. And Georgia and Alabama were down in the bottom quartile, which just is very meaningless because both of those programs, as we know, have been reloading every year, not restocking. So, but you do have some margin of error, especially at QB, that if a guy has, like Vandegrift's only thrown the ball 6 times. I don't know about the other guys. Who's the leader in the clubhouse going into your G-Day game this Saturday?
It would be Carson Beck, but we've really heard a lot of good things about him and Brock Vandegrift, and I think it's going to be a competition that goes into the season. And the one thing that does help Georgia, in my opinion, with the schedule being what it is they're probably going to be able to play both guys some. You know, they play UT Martin, Ball State, UAB, South Carolina. Other than really that South Carolina game, you can make the case that you should be able to see both those guys a good bit. And the thing Kirby's talked about over and over is these guys need to play. And as you know, they're trying to put them during spring practice in situations that simulate being in a game as much as they can. And they can only go so far because, you know, it always comes down to when you're actually out there and the bullets are flying. That's going to determine who's up for the challenge and who isn't.
I think the Kirby's being a little bit dumb like a fox with saying we need to play both of them. That is you agree with me, Rob? That's a retention strategy to keep the runner-up from entering the portal. Am I right?
Well, Jordan just referenced it by saying, I think all 3 of them show promise.
And the thing is, you know, only having 3 scholarship quarterbacks is only rare. I mean, you'd expect to have probably 4, and they didn't sign anyone in this last class because they went after Archie Manning and didn't get him. But yeah, I mean, if somebody were to leave, you know, you are kind of vulnerable because you're only a couple hits away from being in a real precarious situation.
Rob, I'm going to have to cut out of here.
Yeah. Hey, Doug, we're running out of time. Doug, thank you so much. The AU Dose, we'll be back with you later in the week. Jordan, we got a few minutes left, and you know, you think about this in these last 5 minutes. Brock Vandegrift, Gunnar Stockton, Carson Beck. Carson's out of Jacksonville, Florida. You know, you've got 2 5s and a 4 or 2 4s and a 5 in that quarterback room. And you don't have one guy that's completely dominant, but you think they'll be able to carry 3 after spring when that next – I hate to even say this, but the portal, that's what I hate about the portal. Is it makes it hard as a coach. You're right. The injuries. I mean, how many teams last year had to play 2 or 3 quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. My expectation would probably be after this season, maybe somebody leaves just because, you know, I really don't think, you know, based on what I've heard around the program, I really don't think it's coach speak that, oh, well, both these guys, when you're talking about Carson Beck and Brock Vandegrift are in the thick of it. I really do think that they've been pushing and are going to try to make that happen. And I don't anticipate Gunnar Stockton would leave saying, well, look, I'm behind these 2 guys. I mean, he's still only a redshirt freshman. I think he kind of understands the deal. And I mean, you never know. I mean, because, you know, he may decide that he wants to try to go play right away somewhere else. But my thing would be after this season, however this plays out, there will probably be someone who leaves. And that's just sort of the nature of specifically quarterback in the portal. And I get it. I mean, you want to go out and you want to go play. And Georgia right now is really fighting to recruit 2 quarterbacks in this next cycle. And I think it will be a good decision to do that just because you need to try to develop as much depth as you can at that position just because how important that position is.
Yeah, and I hate to even use that portal questioning, but then that, you know what, though, before we even had the portal, 43% of all quarterbacks ended up at a different school from where they started. That's always been going on. All right, looking at it now, Jordan, you got the draft coming up. Is Georgia going to be able to break last year's record or come within a player or 2 of the 15 drafted, 5 defensive guys in the first round?
No, I don't think so. I think based on the list I'm looking at, I think they've got 13 that are going into the draft. I would expect probably 11 will be drafted. Won't be as many as last year in that first round. I think we'll probably see two or three. I think Jalen Carter and Broderick Jones are pretty much locks for that first round. And then Nolan Smith, Keely Ringo, Darnell Washington, those guys are you're kind of hearing back and forth. I would expect probably 3 guys to go in that first round, maybe 4. But there'll be a lot of guys drafted. And I do think the quality of these are guys that are going to stick around. And I think the thing that is so interesting to me, Rob, when you get in fifth, 6th, 7th round, I think that a lot of NFL teams are doing I think you saw a good bit with Alabama guys, pretty much the entire Nick Saban era, is if you're kind of like, okay, well, we got 2 picks left, let's take a chance on this Georgia guy. We know they know he's gonna know how to work and is gonna know the expectations. I think you'll see some of that. Maybe some of these guys, I'm like, I don't know if they're gonna get drafted 5th, 6th, 7th round. Maybe somebody takes a chance.
Yeah, you just said something that is so powerful of a statement, and that for recruiting alone, you go there and you survive 3 or 4 years in that system, you're going to get drafted because people know you wouldn't be there still in that system if you weren't up to the standard. Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. We got great guests like Jordan Hill. We're blessed to have on here. Jordan, tell people how they can follow you, keep up with all your great work, and look forward to hearing from you next week. More college football, folks. We hadn't started the countdown yet, but we're getting close.
No doubt. Dogs247.com, on Twitter at Jordan Davis Hill, on Twitter at Dogs247. And check out the Junkyard Dog Cast podcast. We're about to go record one of those at 12 p.m. Eastern. And G-Day will be here on Saturday. I'll be all over it and wrapping up the spring. It's kind of crazy that it's almost over, but it's going to be a fun little deal on Saturday.
Yeah, it is. I mean, spring practice, we got 8 spring games in the SEC, Jordan, on Saturday. I know Florida's going to play theirs on Thursday. So if you need a fix of some college football, you're going to get it come Saturday. Until then, folks, have a great day. God bless you. We are out of here.